The Homestead Act was a law passed on May 20th, 1862 and went into effect on January 1st, 1863. The Homestead Act gave 160 acres of land in the West to anyone who was a U.S. citizen or intended on becoming one, was the head of the household, was willing to live on the land for 5 years, and are willing to maintain and upkeep it and pay a small fee of about $16, $368 in today's money. Many people moved west with the Homestead Act, and it brought in many new immigrants. The Homestead Act officially ended in 1986.
The first homestead was built in Beatrice, Nebraska, a small town outside of Lincoln. Since then, many homesteads were built in Nebraska and the rest of the West and Midwest. Nebraska was very important in the history of homesteading because it was where it all started. The land in Nebraska was very flat and good for farming or ranching. Nebraska brought in many German, Czechoslovakians, and freed slaves who bought land under the Homestead Act.
Daniel Freeman was the first homesteader recorded in all of history. He made his claim 10 minutes within to the act. His land was pretty flat and he lived near a creek that feeds into the Big Blue River. Today, his land has been made into a national park. He originally built his house near his crops. It was where he lived with his wife for most of their life. Near the end of his life, he built a brick house due to their financial stability. In 1908, he died, and 8 years after his death, his brick house was burned down, and a wooden house was built near the brick house location.
The majority of homesteaders were farmers or ranchers. The equipment necessary had evolved from the simple horse-driven plow to large-scale tractors. Most daily chores include plowing, planting, harvesting, and tending for the animals. Most of the animals were free-range, meaning that they would wander around the property. Many claims didn't have fences pre-placed around the property, causing many contentions. Often when a meal wasn't made, they would starve.
There were many costs and benefits that came out of the Homestead Act. The act led to many new farming inventions that would make farming more productive. To harvest large fields, farmers used to use scythes, sickles, and grain cradles, until the invention of the horse-drawn combine helped clear fields faster and more efficiently. The West was finally being settled and the land was being used. It also boosted the economy with the use of more farmland and the production of more crops and goods. However, there were many costs that came out of the Homestead Act as well. When the settlers came to settle the land, it forced many Native Americans off of their lands and territories. They were put into small reservations and ended up losing most of their cultures and way of lives. The homesteaders didn't necessarily do the best job on farming the land. They did no crop rotation, and the soil became loose and dry due to nutrient loss. When winds would pick up the soil, it would move in a huge sandstorm. This happened around the 1930s, and all the sandstorms were called a dust bowl.
The Homestead Act went until 1986, with the last homestead being built in Alaska by Ken Deerdorf. The Homestead Act really enforced the United States in both good and bad ways. It brought many new races and cultures into the United States. It used the land that was bought by the Louisiana Purchase and was gained by the Mexican Concession, and gave birth to many new inventions and ideals. However, it did drive out many Native American tribes that resulted in a loss of culture, ideals, and the act did cause major ecological disasters such as the Dust Bowl. The Homestead Act changed the course of U.S. history for the better or